everyone. We're going to take a look at the Mastery Learning and Grading product criteria for an elementary home connection. So this is for grades K to 5 or K to 6. A proficient parent communication is going to include the following 6 criteria. Employs parent and student-friendly language throughout. Lists approximately 10 learning targets that will become the categories in the gradebook or references where the learning targets can be accessed. Explains the rationale for the shift from traditional grading to mastery grading. Includes general mastery rubric to clarify each proficiency level. Clarifies how to determine a student's proficiency level in an individual learning target. Clearly explains how student proficiency in different learning targets will translate into their final grade. We are going to look at some elementary home connection exemplars against this criteria. Employs parent and student-friendly language throughout. In this example, the teacher has made sure to introduce themselves as well as incorporate language that is grade level appropriate. If you would like to look at this in more detail, feel free to pause the video to read what's on the screen. Lists approximately 10 learning targets that will become the categories in the gradebook. In this example, the teacher has listed a few learning targets for math, and they have organized these by domain. So they've included learning targets that are going to inform that domain scoring practice. So for example, in operations and algebraic thinking, they have one learning target. I can add numbers in an array of rows and columns up to 5 in each. I can show my answer in a number sentence. This teacher has listed these learning targets, and you'll notice that there are fewer than 10 here, and that's okay. We want approximately 10 learning targets that will inform your grading practice. Here is a sample list of learning targets that they included for ELA. Explains the rationale for the shift from traditional grading to mastery grading. In this example, the teacher has gone ahead and outlined that traditionally assignments and assessments were averaged in order to reach a final grade. But now the focus is on mastering the learning targets. That means that there will be a shift from traditional grading to mastery grading. The teacher states that for every subject, students will be given multiple forms of assessment to determine progress. Rubrics will also be used. Includes a general mastery rubric to clarify each proficiency level. In this example, the teacher has provided us with a 1 to 4 scale, and they have described each level. For example, 3 is meeting standard, and they provide a student-friendly description of what that means. Clarifies how to determine a student's proficiency level in an individual learning target. In this example, the teacher goes ahead and describes in a few sentences what it's going to take to make the grade. The teacher says that mastery of a learning target is going to be determined depending upon the standard or learning target. They provide an example. Here is an example where the teacher is communicating that information in a table. So you'll notice that for learning target number 1, there are a series of assessments. Each assessment has a score on a 1 to 4 level. Ultimately, the teacher has determined that in this example, this learning target is going to receive a score or a level 3. This is in alignment with that teacher's description of the most recent evidence. Clearly explains how student proficiency in different learning targets will translate into their final grade. Here is a visual where a teacher is communicating how learning targets are going to feed into that final math composite grade. So first, the teacher is communicating that the learning target scores will be used to determine overall domain scores. Then there are images that correspond to those domains, indicating that learning targets will inform each domain. For example, in operations and algebraic thinking, this teacher has 4 learning targets. Then, where there is a number 2, you'll notice that the teacher is explaining that domain scores will be used to determine the final composite grade. Here is a more detailed example that another teacher has provided. In this example, the student has achieved a level 3 in Learning Target 1, a level 3 in Learning Target 2, and a level 2 in Learning Target 3. The teacher now looks at those grades, 3, 3, 2, and has made a determination of 3 for the composite grade. Now we will look at the masterful criteria. In order to submit a masterful syllabus or parent communication, there are 3 criteria in addition to the proficiency criteria. Only one additional masterful criteria is necessary to achieve mastery. Describes mastery learning instructional practices that will be implemented to support all students in achieving proficiency. Let's look at some examples. In this example, the teacher has explained how students are being supported towards grade level proficiency. Classroom rules, norms, or routines which align with MLG practices that develop a mindset for learning. In this example, the teacher has provided a description where Mondays and Thursdays will be station rotation days. On these days, students will be given an opportunity to engage in corrective instruction or deliberate practice and enrichment activities to assure that they are prepared for their formative and summative tasks. The goal is for students to demonstrate proficiency in their learning targets. They will be supported explicitly on this effort through these station rotation days. Identifies how students' variables for learning are addressed during class time. In this example, the teacher has provided a description of how this will be done. The teacher says that students will show growth towards their learning targets, and they will receive feedback on their progress towards mastery. This will be done through the use of rubrics. The teacher explains that rather than checking at the end of the unit for that student's proficiency level, they will be checking along their learning process. Additionally, this teacher says that they will be moving away from traditional grading practices. Please take a moment to review your own product against the proficiency or masterful criteria by going back into the video as you may need.